Cinema Wellman. I am your host, David, and this episode wasn't planned, but we figured, why not? Everyone else is doing an Oscar recap. Why not Cinema Wellman? And our production staff has decided to make it an annual post-Oscar episode, so we'll be doing an Oscar post-mortem every year going forward, starting, I hope I get to 100 a few years from now. We strive for transparency here at Cinema Wellman, so I will tell you that once the Oscar for Best Visual Effects was awarded, Chet and I started celebrating. We've been on a Godzilla -1 bender for days. I believe we've been banned from a restaurant in Haverhill and a bar in Drake it. But it was worth it. The 96th Academy Awards will forever be remembered as the night Godzilla won more Oscars than a Martin Scorsese movie with 10 nominations. Not to pick on Marty because we love him, but I was surprised Killers of the Flower Moon went 0 for 10 Sunday night. Maestro was also shut out, going 0 for 7. Past Lives was 0 for 2. These three were the only Best Picture nominees to leave Hollywood without hardware. Now that's got to be rough. I'm sure you're extremely proud of your effort and the finished product, and you worked with a great cast and crew to create something that was obviously well done and well received. You're being honored by your peers, and you go home with nothing. It was an honor just to be nominated. That must be something they practice saying. Ouch. We're going to break down this episode into the following categories. Number 1, categories in which the Academy and Cinema Wellman agreed, and there were 8 of those. Number 2, categories in which the Academy agreed with a second choice by Cinema Wellman. There were 3 of those, and we didn't make a second choice for every category, just a select few that were too close to call. Number 3, categories in which the Academy went with someone Cinema Wellman didn't vote for, but we're totally fine with it. There were 11 of those. And the 4th category, categories in which the Academy went with someone Cinema Wellman didn't vote for, and we are not okay with it. There's one of those. We will begin with the 8 categories in which our votes match the Academy, and I'm happy to say that a lot of them were in the major categories. As previously mentioned, we matched with Godzilla -1 for Best Visual Effects. It was Godzilla's first Oscar, and he's been at it for 70 years now. Good job. Love those Gojira figurines they brought to the podium, and their footwear. Amazing footwear. We were also correct with our vote for Poor Things in the Best Makeup and Hairstyling category. And if you haven't seen a picture, if you haven't seen the movie and you haven't seen a picture of Willem Dafoe, you have to check that out online. Our animated feature film vote paid off with the still-to-be-seen The Boy and the Heron winning, and we can't wait to see that. If you follow us on Instagram, you may have seen a Sunday post mentioning that we ended up seeing 47 of the year's 53 nominated films before the ceremony, and we're already up to 48. We were so pleased that our vote for international feature film, The Zone of Interest, won. An exceptional film that took home 2 Oscars. I was kind of surprised with that. The other 4 votes that hit were actor Cillian Murphy, actress Emma Stone, director Christopher Nolan, and Best Picture Oppenheimer. I'll admit that none of those votes were really going out on a limb in any way, but I was happy to see that the films and individuals that I thought deserved the Oscar actually won the Oscar. I didn't vote for them because I wanted them to win. I voted for them because I thought they deserved to win. Obviously, that overlaps, but I wasn't making predictions. I think it's ridiculous to make predictions. I just voted for who I thought should win based on my screenings. And as I mentioned, we didn't do a second choice for all 23 of the categories. The ones that were too close to call, we added a second unofficial vote here and there. And Cinema Wellman matched up with 3 of these second choices. Best Score in Cinematography, both won by Oppenheimer. And Wes Anderson has won an Oscar. Best Live Action Short. The wonderful story of Henry Sugar. So happy for Wes, like I know him. 11 Oscars went to movies or individuals we did not vote for, but we have 0 issues with the fact that they won. These categories are as follows. Supporting Actress, Davine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers. Davine did a wonderful job in The Holdovers as the grieving cook suffering mostly in silence at an upscale prep school. I love her as the detective on Only Murders in the Building, so I'm happy for her, and now I'll start pronouncing her name correctly. I previously butchered it. Sorry about that, Davine. While I'm apologizing, I'd also like to apologize for mistakes I made in a recent episode. While discussing Argyle, I somehow managed to mix up a couple characters while I was talking about the plot. And I'm sorry about that. I'd say it was a senior moment, but looking at this year's presidential nominees, I'm really not that old at all. The person who pointed this out has been added to the Cinema Wellman staff as an executive producer. No, you just don't need to point out my mistakes to be added to the staff. It's Hannah. Hannah has been on board since the start and is always ready with ideas, input, and coaching, all of which are much appreciated. Nepo baby? Hell yes. Dakota's already on the staff as costume and production designer. I hire people I trust and love. Speaking of costume design, Poor Things. I mentioned how much I loved Poor Things and how I fought the urge to vote for it across the board, so I was ecstatic when they took home the costume design Oscar. Once it won Best Makeup and Hairstyling, I almost made a last-second switch of votes since makeup and hairstyling and costume design often go together. But I didn't. I love this choice. I love this movie. Documentary feature film, 20 Days in Mariupol. I have now seen all 5 of this year's nominees in this category. I have no issue with this film winning. Being totally honest, 20 Days in Mariupol didn't get the vote because of the heavy subject matter of the Ukrainian invasion. And it was a hard watch, and I guess I wasn't in the right frame of mind to watch it. So I don't think I appreciated it as much as I should have. It was parts of it were difficult to watch, as was Bobby Wine, which we voted for, but that had more of an uplifting feel to it, which is why it got our vote. That being said, I do recommend 20 Days in Mariupol. Nobody ever said that all good movies were easy to watch. At least I never said it. Documentary short film, The Last Repair Shop. This film was fantastic. It involved schools and students and music. It's about a small group of people who repair musical instruments for the Los Angeles public school system. I was so impressed by the absolute dedication these heroes show to their craft, doing their best to make sure every music student in the city has a properly working instrument. As IMDb states, it is also a reminder of how music can be the best medicine, stress reliever, and even an escape from poverty. This was a heartwarming and uplifting film. Film editing was won by Oppenheimer. No problem with this whatsoever. It was an extremely well done film on so many levels, editing being just one of them. Original song from Barbie, What Was I Made For? If you watched our Oscar preview episode, I mentioned that I wanted to vote for a Barbie song in this category, but I felt silly choosing it over a culturally significant song that celebrated an entire people. The Academy obviously didn't feel silly doing that. It's a good song. Production design was won by Poor Things. This could have gone so many ways. Our choice was Oppenheimer. The production design in Barbie was tremendous, but the Academy chose Poor Things. We love that choice as well. The design team created a very odd setting for this film, and those combo animals fit right in. Animated short film, the winner was War Is Over, inspired by the music of John and Yoko. And I just saw this film the other day, and I loved the message behind it, and I'm sure that John and Yoko would approve. Sound. The award was won by The Zone of Interest, and the sound in this movie was phenomenal because it needed to make sure you heard certain things without the benefit of seeing where these sounds were coming from. And I'm talking about gunshots, screaming, crying, moaning. Remember, this is the film about the commandant of Auschwitz and his wife building their dream house and garden, backyard, right at Auschwitz. The wall divides the prison camp from their backyard. It's amazing. It really is. I noticed this about the sound in the film when I watched it, and I should have remembered that and voted for it. It's the only choice that I second guessed, really. Adapted screenplay was won by American Fiction, and original screenplay was won by Anatomy of a Fall. And I rarely get either of these writing categories correct, and I'm not sure why. I pay attention to the writing in just about every film I see, but I can never tell which way the Academy is going to go. American Fiction and Anatomy of a Fall were excellent choices, as were the other 8 films that didn't win. You can't go wrong in either of those categories, really. And the one winner that we here at Cinema Wellman had a problem with was Best Supporting Actor, and it's Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer. First and foremost, I'm just not a fan. He's been around forever, made a ton of movies. I've seen a ton of his movies. I really only like 2 of them, Air America and Zodiac. He's a 3-time Oscar nominee, Chaplin, oh, I hate Charlie Chaplin, and Tropic Thunder, in blackface, before this. So I know, I realize he's talented, but I just don't see it. I think I associate him far too much with his Tony Stark character, and I hate his Tony Stark character. Secondly, there were so many supporting parts in Oppenheimer that I thought either nominate all of them or none of them. I love Emily Blunt, but I thought Emily Blunt and Robert Downey Jr. were the weakest of all the acting nominations. You don't walk away from Oppenheimer, at least I didn't. I'm sorry. I didn't walk away from Oppenheimer and saying, wow, those 2 performances. I kind of, not that I didn't notice them, but they didn't make an impact on me. Let's put it that way. But what do I know? Well, that's a wrap from here at Cinema Wellman for our Oscar recap. We'll do it again next March and obviously compare the results. We hope you're back with us next week as we salute an Oscar-winning actor who has a penchant for playing real people. And until then, take care.